Meet Alex and Dave, two 32-year-old guys, same city, same $80,000 salary, same $70,000 sitting in cash. Today, they each make the single biggest financial decision of their lives. Alex buys a house, Dave keeps renting, and promises himself he'll invest the difference. Fast forward 30 years. Alex is sitting in a fully paid off home, his cost of living close to zero. Dave has built an investment portfolio so big, it shocks everyone who once told him he was throwing money away on rent. But here's the twist. By year 40, one of these guys is financially free. The other is on the verge of bankruptcy. And I promise you, it's not the guy you're thinking of. Every real estate guru on TikTok shows you the final value of a paid-off house and calls it a flawless win. Every stock market bro shows you compounding returns and swears renting makes you a millionaire. They're both lying to you because neither one runs the full math. So today, we're opening the spreadsheet, real numbers, hidden fees, actual friction costs, and the psychological traps nobody warns you about. Let's start with three baseline numbers. Call them the rules of gravity for everything that follows. First, the risk-free rate. We're setting that at 3.5% based on the 10-year Treasury yield. If a strategy can't beat a guaranteed 3.5% from the government, it's a bad strategy. Second, the CapEx rate, capital expenditures. We're setting that at 1% of the home's value per year. Real estate influencers love to skip this one. It's not light bulbs, it's the roof you'll replace for $15,000 in year 10, or the HVAC system that dies right when you can least afford it. Third, and this is the big one, the behavioral slippage factor. We're setting that at 75%. According to Dalbar's well-known investor behavior studies, retail investors almost never hit their perfect spreadsheet returns. Emotional selling, lifestyle creep. Normal humans execute their investment plans at roughly 75% efficiency. So we're building actual human nature into this math, not the fantasy version. Now, the setup. Same mid-sized American city. A nice 3-bedroom house is listed at $350,000. Alex takes the leap. He puts down $52,500, 15%, and finances the remaining $297,500 with a 30-year fixed mortgage at 6.5%. Dave looks at that and laughs. He rents a nearly identical house in the same neighborhood for $1,800 a month and takes his full $70,000 and drops it straight into an S&P 500 index fund. On paper, Dave looks like the genius, but let's see what actually happens to Alex's net worth on day one. Society tells you that the moment you sign a mortgage, you're officially wealthy. You're a homeowner. Congratulations. Mathematically, that's absurd. The second Alex signs that contract, his net worth doesn't go up. It gets hit. Let's call these friction costs. The fees the real estate industry doesn't put in the brochure. Dollar for dollar, here's what disappears. The bank charges a 1% origination fee on the loan. That's $2,975. Title and escrow companies take their cut based on the home's value, $2,450. The government collects transfer taxes at 1%, another $3,500. The lender requires prepaids up front, 3 months of property taxes, a year of insurance, $3,075. And because Alex only put down 15%, he's required to carry private mortgage insurance. His first month's premium is $99, due right at closing. Add it up. That's $12,099 in pure systemic friction. It doesn't build equity. It doesn't touch the house. It goes straight to the bank, the title company, and the government. Before Alex even unpacks a single box, his liquid net worth has already dropped from $70,000 to $57,901. And it gets worse. Let's talk about the interest black hole. In Alex's very first monthly payment of $1,880, how much actually builds equity? $269. The other $1,611 goes straight to interest. You are, in that moment, essentially renting money from the bank. And before anyone brings up the tax write-off, for a house at this price, the standard deduction makes the mortgage interest deduction mathematically useless for most people anyway. Factor in his actual holding costs, 1.25% property taxes, 1% for that CapEx maintenance fund, 0.3% insurance, and Alex is burning $8,925 a year in costs he will never see again. Dave, meanwhile, still has his full $70,000 sitting safely and liquid in an index fund. No broken water heater, no closing costs, no stress. Now, let's skip ahead 3 years. This is where the two paths start to violently diverge and where the math punctures the illusions on both sides. Alex's house has appreciated a conservative 3.5% a year. It's now worth $388,051. His mortgage balance has ticked down to $287,143. He opens the Zillow app, sees $100,908 in paper equity, and feels like a king. But here's the problem. What if Alex gets an incredible job offer in another state? What if he has to sell right now? This is where paper well turns into a trap. You cannot spend Zillow equity at the grocery store. If Alex sells that $388,000 house, the friction costs come back for round 2, a 6% agent commission, $23,283 gone instantly. Another 1.5% in staging, repairs, and closing concessions, $5,820. Total exit costs, $29,103. That $100,000 in equity shrinks down to $71,805. He started with $70,000 3 years ago. His actual annualized return, a miserable 0.85%. He underperformed inflation. He underperformed a basic savings account. Alex is, quite literally, trapped inside his own house. Now, let's check on Dave. On a perfect spreadsheet, his original $70,000 plus that $1,000 monthly savings gap, compounding at 8% a year, should be worth about $129,000 by now. But remember our rules. Spreadsheets don't have emotions. Be honest with yourself for a second. If you rent, do you actually invest every single dollar you save compared to buying every month? Really? This is where the 75% behavioral slippage factor kicks in. When Dave sees a growing pile of cash, human nature takes over. A nicer car, a vacation. Instead of investing the full $1,000, he only manages $750 a month. And because he panicked and sold during a dip, his actual return drops from 8% to 6.5%. After that behavioral discount, Dave's real portfolio sits at $115,400. Here's the brutal truth. Even as an imperfect emotional retail investor, Dave is still about 60% wealthier than Alex in liquid cash at year 3. But Alex bought something you can't put on a spreadsheet: forced discipline. His mortgage is a financial gun to his head, making him save every single month whether he wants to or not. Dave has to rely on willpower. Alex relies on fear. And fear, it turns out, is a lot more consistent. Now, let's jump ahead to year 15. Both guys are 47. This is the moment the whole game flips. Inflation has been running at about 4.5% a year. Groceries have doubled. Cars are absurdly expensive. But Alex's mortgage payment, principal and interest, is exactly what it was 15 years ago: $1,880. Inflation is a homeowner's best friend. It quietly erodes the real weight of your debt. You're paying the bank back today with dollars that are worth a lot less than the ones you borrowed. Now look at Dave. His original $1,800 rent doesn't stay flat. Compounding at 4.5% a year is now $3,483 a month. That's nearly double what he started paying. And it eats straight into the $1,000 a month he used to invest. The extra cash he once poured into his portfolio is gone, swallowed by rent. He can no longer add new money to his investments. From here on, his wealth depends entirely on market growth, not his own contributions. Meanwhile, Alex's mortgage has crossed its tipping point. Most of that $1,880 payment is now going straight into principal. He's building equity fast. The snowball is finally rolling downhill. Year 30, they're both 62, heading into retirement. This is the real test. Let's say Dave survived his own bad habits and grew his portfolio to an impressive $1.3 million. Looks like he won, right? But Dave is about to face 2 financial threats most people never see coming. The first is longevity risk. By year 30, his rent, still compounding at 4.5%, has climbed to $6,741 a month. That's $80,892 a year just to keep a roof over his head. To cover that, he has to withdraw 6.22% of his portfolio every single year. Any financial planner will tell you that shatters the Trinity study's famous 4% safe withdrawal rule. A 6.22% withdrawal rate is a death sentence for a portfolio, and that's before medical bills. Just paying rent alone will drain his million-dollar nest egg in 12 to 15 years. But what if the market crashes the same year Dave retires? This is what's called sequence of returns risk. Say the market drops 30% in his first retirement year, like it did in 2008. His $1.3 million crashes to $910,000, but his landlord doesn't care about the S&P 500. Rent is due regardless. Dave is forced to sell $80,892 worth of stock at the exact bottom of the market just to survive. Because his portfolio just shrank, his withdrawal rate spikes to 8.88%. That's a death spiral. At that pace, his portfolio hits zero in about 7.4 years, which lands right around year 37. That's the year 40 moment we opened this video with. Dave goes broke. Now what about Alex? At year 30, his mortgage disappears. Final payment made. 30 years of debt gone. His housing cost drops to the floor. Just property taxes, insurance, and basic upkeep. Even after 30 years of inflation on those costs, he's living on roughly $2,800 a month. That's less than half of what Dave needs just to keep renting. Yes, Alex carries concentration risk. His entire net worth is tied up in one house on one street. But he's achieved the one thing that actually matters in retirement, a physical shield against inflation, as long as he can cover roughly 41% of what Dave needs each month. Because $2,800 is about 41% of Dave's $6,741 rent. Alex can live comfortably for the rest of his life without ever touching an investment account. So who's actually right? The buy real estate no matter what crowd, or the rent and invest minimalists? Strip away the noise, and there are exactly two numbers that make this decision for you. Rule number one, the break-even horizon. Ask yourself, are you planning to stay in this city for less than 7 years? Because it takes roughly 5 to 7 years of appreciation just to climb out of that $12,000 hole you dig on closing day. If the honest answer is probably not, don't buy. Renting wins, full stop. Buying a house you'll sell in 3 years is just setting money on fire to impress your friends. Rule number two, the rent-to-price ratio. Take 1 month's rent, multiply by 12, and divide by the purchase price of that same property. If that number comes in under 4.5%, rent immediately. Take New York, Seattle, or the Bay Area. A $1 million house might rent for $3,500 a month. That works out to a 4.2% ratio. The price has completely disconnected from what the property can actually earn. In markets like that, renting isn't settling. It's a cheat code. You're essentially getting a discount the landlord is quietly absorbing. But if that ratio climbs above 7%, which happens a lot across the Midwest and the South, buy. The cash flow math has flipped entirely in your favor, and renting becomes the losing move. But what if you don't want to choose at all? What if you want to break the whole equation? There's a third way. It's called house hacking, and it might be the single best cheat code available to the middle class. Write this down. The goal was never to own property for its own sake. The real goal is to control an asset while someone else pays for it. Instead of taking your $70,000 and buying a standard single-family house, you find a duplex, a triplex, or a property with a separate basement unit. You buy it. You live in one half, you rent out the other. Your tenant's rent covers 60% to 80% of your mortgage payment. You've just stolen the best part of Dave's strategy, dramatically low monthly living costs. But your name is still on the deed. You've locked in 30 years of fixed debt, and you collect 100% of the appreciation. You've also stolen the best part of Alex's strategy. And because your housing cost is now close to nothing, you take that freed up income and put it straight into the market. Real estate crushes your living expenses. The stock market builds your liquid wealth. It's the only approach here that gives you a double layer of protection against inflation. So let's bring this home. When you see people online screaming about renting versus buying, ignore the noise. This was never really about average stock market returns versus average real estate returns. It comes down to two personal questions. 1, how long are you actually going to stay in one place? 2, if you choose to rent, do you genuinely have the discipline to invest the difference every single month for 30 straight years without breaking? Because the math doesn't care about your intentions. It only rewards what you actually do. If this broke things down in a way that finally made sense, tap that like button. It helps this reach more people who need to see the real numbers instead of the fantasy version. Subscribe if you want more of this. Real math, no myths, no noise. Let me know in the comments, after seeing the actual numbers, are you team rent, team buy, or are you looking seriously at house hacking? I read every comment. Stay smart, protect your cash flow, and I'll see you in the next one.